Yo, what's up? It's your man Saeed. I know, listen, I wear a size 11, so I'm filling some big shoes with John Robinson. But you know what? It's my brother. He's out in the world doing his thing. I just want to say welcome to Visual Caffeine. This is episode 102. We have a wonderful guest that I think you guys are going to love, Chris Maestro from Bierwax. I know y'all been to Bierwax. Come on, stop playing. Y'all know what it's about, right? So listen, stay tuned. Check it out. This is what's going to happen. We're going to talk it up. So I mean, let's just get it. Let's get it going. Because this is a great place to start as far as the origins of Bierwax and how this came to mind and how you manifested this.
No doubt.
This institution. Now I want to call it an institution.
Thank you. And it's what's wild is to know that this is an idea that I had in my head years ago. And to know that it's come to fruition and people enjoy themselves at my bar and people write about it. People tell people in other parts of the world, like, oh, if you go to Brooklyn or you go to New York, go visit this place. So it's just wild to me that it's now become this thing that people know about and people appreciate. And John Robinson, I sent him a beat once and he surprised me on my birthday and recorded the Bierwax anthem. I had a podcast for a little bit, and that was like the outro music for the podcast. But I digress. The idea really was born at this point about 12 years ago, and it was I was just trying to figure out a way to marry my two passions. I've been a record collector and DJ since my late teens, and then I got into craft beer in my mid to late 20s. And just got, when you get passionate about something, you dive all in. And I was like, there must be something I can do to like bring these two things to life under one roof. And it was really through visiting other places, in some cases, like in other parts of the world. I went to a place, I think it was like 2008, called Cafe Duvel or something like that. It was in Amsterdam.
I was about to ask, where were you?
I was in Amsterdam, and it was like a hip hop bar. My friend who was much more traveled than me, he was like, oh, this is hip hop bar. You got to come check it out. And at the time, most DJs had already switched to using Serato, and we're doing digital DJing, which is, listen, I'm a DJ. I was spinning in clubs. I was spinning with Serato, but I was blown away because these DJs were spinning vinyl, all hip hop in his bar in Amsterdam, and they were spinning like Sean P, Little Brother, like shit that I'm like, this is not no regular, set right now. And I was like, I can't believe I'm in Amsterdam. Mostly it was Europeans from Amsterdam, I imagine. They knew all these songs verbatim. They were mouthing the words. I'm like, yo, how come this doesn't exist in New York? So that was like an early seed planted in my head.
Wow.
I was like, you know what? I would like to see something like this. I didn't know at the time that I was going to create that, but I thought to myself, there was a void of something like this. Of course, there's some legendary places in New York City throughout the years. I remember I used to go to APT a lot in the meatpacking district. Spinner, Barbito, and Chairman Mouse, Rich Medina. The lineup was sick. Right. So there are always places in my own timeline that I remember were like pivotal spots for me. So at a certain point I said, I just want to open up a place like that, people will remember and will appreciate. And I can bring these passions to life in this place.
That's really funny that you have to go elsewhere outside of New York City to really have just kind of like that inspiration. You know what I'm saying? Because of course we got everything here. So you would expect that, of course. This marriage, though, you were speaking about the vinyl, the beers. Like, if you could just describe like how you really made this marriage work, because it works. It certainly works for sure. Just being, like I said there a month ago or so, and I'm like, oh, this is a match made in heaven. That process of really putting it all together. If you could walk us through that.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about, I guess, the pairing per se of beer,
yes.
of hip hop culture, of vinyl records. I mean, I think there's a bit of symmetry between those worlds in terms of you're creating something from scratch, right? That's both hip hop and that's also craft beer. We serve mostly local craft beer from independent breweries. So these are folks that literally, some of them started off as home brewers that were putting, hops and yeast and water together to make beer. And of course it malted barley, but same thing, people, folks, in the Bronx in the late 70s, mid 70s, use what they can use to make something totally brand new. So, I saw that symmetry. And there's also even a symmetry in terms of like digging for records, right? When you want to find that exclusive rare gem. And there's a lot of beer nerds out there that are always looking for that rare beer that's hard to find. Sometimes, there used to be like a line culture outside of breweries where people would wait like for hours to get that rare beer. And they trade it with people, so there's so many small like things that are very similar that I feel like people that are into craft beer understand the vinyl aspect, right? Sure. and vice versa. There are a lot of people that, we've had events, for random hip hop personalities, whether it was like for Sean P. We've had tributes to DJ Chaos, where, folks that don't know craft beer well may come and experience what we do. And we always ask, well, what kind of beers are you into? And it depends, sometimes it could be a stout, it could be a Pilsner. If they're used to drinking Stella, let's say, we'll find something that's on our list that they can relate to. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the Sean P, and I saw that, and I was on your Instagram page a little bit earlier just to do my little homework and whatnot. I saw that Craig G had mentioned he had 4 of those. Be careful, 9% alcohol.
Yes.
Will put you. It'll put you down. But can you describe to us, like, how did that come about with the Sean P, Sean the Barbarian?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's an
oatmeal stout, right?
It's an oatmeal stout. So an imperial oatmeal stout. So it's a little bit stronger than the average. So that's why Craig G was was knocked down off of that 4. We were politicking together. I was, to meet so many dope people like Craig G, that I have cassette tapes from Stretch and Bobbito with Craig G freestyling. So for him to try a beer that I was somehow helped cultivate, I'll go back. This was pre-COVID. Steve Lohim, formerly known as Kinetic from Arsonist, he reached out to me. I've known him since I was a teenager. I met him when I was up at Binghamton. I brought the Arsonist. Me and an organization I was working with brought the Arsonist up to perform at Binghamton. So I personally went down in a rent-a-wreck in this huge old beat-up van to pick them up. Oh, wow. And I drove all members up to Binghamton, and they were just like wilding out in the back of the van for 4 hours. It was like, I'll never forget that. So I've known Kinetic since then. We've kept in touch throughout the years. So he just thought of hitting me up when Bernadette approached him about trying to figure out, she had this idea. I want to do a beer in her late husband's, name, to keep his, spirit alive. And she mentioned, she's like, he loves stouts. So I would love to do a stout. So Kinetic reached out to me and asked me if I knew of any breweries that might be down. And I said right away, no, I definitely know of one that does this. They are extreme lovers of hip hop, and not just from an appropriation point of view, which a lot of breweries do.
It's interesting.
Cultural appropriation. This is a guy, he's a white dude, but he ran Def Jux for LP. Oh wow. He's a DJ. He was steeped in hip hop. He knew Cannibal Ox. He knew a lot of acts that were affiliated with Def Jux at the time. Right. So hip hop is something that he actually is steeped in and appreciates in a very genuine way. So I approached him, and he was 100% down. We met up with Bernadette at this point 2.5 years ago at Bierwax, and little Sean was there too, their daughter. And we just hit it off. She loved the idea of coming to the brewery to see what they do and to taste some beer. And that all happened before the pandemic. But it took all this time to actually get everyone on the same page with regards to like the money split.
Sure.
You know, Bierwax and Steve Lohim, like we're really just responsible for the connection of bringing Bernadette and Intabaro, the brewery, together to collaborate. So they're the main collaborators. We essentially made the introduction. So we were happy to at least be featured on the can itself. A little thank you to Steve Lohim and to Bierwax.
I saw that.
So that, that's an honor to at least have helped in some small way this beer to actually happen.
Packed with a scroll and gonads, not like you live and die by the blink of an evil eye that looks to despise, but still is wise to open up to the light. Like Carol Ann and Poltergeist, I live the man of your past lives. Chastised are free, through me they see what a million lives came to be. Rolled into one higher elevation from a mother nation. I speak in tongues, esta chica es número one. Tú sabes que yo tengo la llave, mi jefa tiene clave, volare, no me compare que como yo no hay nadie. Mira, ven, dale, don, dale, dale, don, dale. Entre uno, loco sale directamente de la calle. Back to the wire, we on fire.
Let's talk a little bit more about music, your crates and the genres and your favorite genres. And you mentioned being in Amsterdam, hearing that, Little Brother and these types of artists that for me, that's my appetite. I think it's safe to assume that you might have the same type of palate.
I think so. safe to say, exactly. Safe to assume.
Sure. Let's talk about the wax at Bierwax.
Yeah. So, I mean, the wax at Bierwax is really started as one crate in my late teens. I didn't even have a turntable, but I somehow knew. I remember going into the student union, and they used to have these record fairs. There was a local radio station that was, I guess, converting to a digital format. So they were getting rid of their records, and they had serious jazz records for like $3 each.
Wow.
And I didn't even have a turntable, but I knew, I was like, you know what? I think I should buy some of these records. I had that foresight. And I bought a couple. I still have those same exact records. It says WHRW, the name of the radio station, on the record. It's two Horace Silver records and a Wes Montgomery record.
Can't go wrong with Horace Silver.
Seriously, it was song for my father.
Okay.
And I forgot the Wes Montgomery record, but so those three were like the beginning of me starting to just fall in love with record digging. At the time, I wasn't a DJ. I was dabbling with producing. So every one of those records was the potential, maybe a sample on them, right? And my production at the time was essentially just looping up a dope loop and trying to find some good drums and just putting them together. That's it. So
I mean, that's how it starts, right?
Yeah. Oh man. So it was, and then my brother, bless him, was working for the radio station on campus. And this was around the time that Fat Beats was open. A lot of independent record labels would just mail him records. So he was just getting records left and right from like Sayan Yeshua, the Poeti, from basically any Fondlem release. I can't even remember, but there was, the early MF Doom releases. He was just getting them for free. So at a certain point, he was like, I don't need these records anymore because I'm not even a DJ. He knew that I was collecting records, so he gave me all those. So that was the beginning of my like indie hip hop collection. And then from there, once I graduated, I had enough money. I was teaching at the time. I was my first year of teaching. I was able to finally save up enough money to go to Canal Street to buy one Technique 1200. That's all I could afford at the time, just one. And then eventually saved up for one mixer. And then about like 6 months later, I got the second turntable. And then I was hit the ground running. At that point, I was like, all right, let me try to learn how to scratch and how to mix. And of course, the first few gigs were a fucking train wreck. But you
had to learn.
You had to learn.
Figure it out.
I remember that my first gig was at this bar. It might still be around in the village called Red Lion. I think I'm Bleecker or McDougal, around there somewhere.
It's around McDougal. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't even put Fuzzy Days. Yeah. Serious Fuzzy Nights, so I can't put it all together. But it's Red Lion. There. I do recall.
Yeah. And I remember this was like the early 2000s, and I had cheat notes with like every single record I was gonna play, and like, all right, this one's gonna be like minus 2.2. The next record I'm gonna do +1, so I can try to like mix it exactly right. So, but you know, it's just funny to think like how far I've come from those early days of collecting records, of DJing, and then once you collect records and you're a DJ, it doesn't end. The thirst and the appetite for collecting more and more and amassing, you know, like any collector, whether it's comic books or baseball cards or whatever, it's like you can't have enough.
Yeah, you can't.
So it, you know, whether it was someone's grandparents had a bunch of records in their basement, sometimes they were trash, sometimes they were, whoa, this is like Fania, all these Latin records that are really dope.
The holy grail of records.
And they're free, sure, I'll take them, you know, so it started like that, just like every time I had a little extra money as a teacher, I would go to the record store, buy some records. You know, anytime I would travel, I'd go hit up a record store. So, you know, and then at a certain point, you're like, oh shit, I have more records than I can fit in my apartment. And you know, it's, you know, my wife, she was very happy for me to open up Bierwax to get the records out the house.
Yeah. Yes.
It's way too loud, like the ecliptic is fun to see. Remind me of how you guys are legend company. Big little side ID, wannabe. Silly me villainy, and it's ill-built soliloquy, y'all. Came through to do the doom to the crew, confusion crew, Rubik's Cube. Metal mask, face mango, purple cape. Found a way to smash the triangle through the circle shape. Faster than a team of apes like the full bandit. Taller than the solar system, not no planet. Yup, enough to leave your mind blown in it. Keep an open mind, don't take things for granted. Damn it, MC, seem to be slushed out. Must be still got the willow in her eyes, they must spout. Yo, it's like the gold rush in the south. We are shadow of the doubt. This one is called yikes. Every time we picking up mics, it's like yikes. Every time we blowing up shows, it's like yikes. Every time we taking control. This one is called yikes. Every time we picking up mics, it's like yo. Every time we blowing up shows, it's like.
But you know, you said something that really struck. Got my heart feels going. You're an educator.
Yes.
I'm still in the game. I'm still teaching.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, so,
what do you teach exactly?
So I am an English teacher by trade.
Beautiful.
But recently, I guess for maybe the last couple of years, I've been teaching at an IB. Well, the school is transforming into an IB school, right? For the International Baccalaureate. So I teach a course called Theory of Knowledge.
Nice. Just even the name is amazing.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, what is that? And so, I mean, it's what do we call it? Because it's not philosophy. That's how they wish not to define it. But it's more of epistemology. Okay. Right. So, it's really philosophy. Yeah. But it's, you know, we get into breaking down knowledge. What is knowledge? You know, and how do we acquire knowledge? So the quintessential question that I ask every student, because it's a 2-year course, is how do you know what you know? And that's that. Yeah. And then we start walking through the faculties of what we have as human beings in terms of our ways of knowing. That's right. So we're rational. You know, we're rational creatures, as Plato said, or was it Aristotle? One of the two. So
exactly.
We're rational beings. And then, of course, we have our sense perception to really grasp reality. There's memory, which is, you know, a doozy when you think about memory. And is it really, you know, can we see the past really and truly, or can we see the future really and truly? So, I mean, yeah, you know, if you ever have time, you can come sit down and yeah, you can sit down in some of my classes because I'm uptown in Harlem at Harlem Village Academies.
Oh wow, yeah.
So yeah, it's a real.
It would bring me great joy to kind of remember what it was like to be in the classroom. That, you know, there are parts of that I do miss of just being a teacher and having that engagement from students and seeing like light bulbs go off sometimes. Like, you know, especially I was a history teacher.
Okay.
So
I was gonna ask.
So history teacher and sometimes, and I was teaching global history. So it was a very strict curriculum. I had to prepare students for their regions. But I also felt it would be a disservice if I didn't also incorporate what I called, we used to do social justice Fridays or something.
For sure.
So I don't even remember the name. I think I called it No, I called it oppression studies is what I called it. I think that's what I called it. Listen, I was in my 20s. So, I was coming from, learning about all these things to being very excited to teach young people about them. So,
sure. And then realizing how the game really goes, and then some of the institutions out here, because I'm at a charter network, but some of the institutions really restrict you, as you were saying, as far as the curriculum.
Yes,
you want to teach to the curriculum, get them prepared for regents, and then send them on their way. Yeah. So whatever we can do in between is always,
it's very important. Exactly.
Very important. And it's the real work. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I don't know how much more time I got in that classroom, but I know right now I'm present every day and I know what I'm doing. There's a purpose.
Great. That's great. Yeah.
And, I got a couple of questions I do want to ask. P, what we looking like? Keep it all right. All right. All right. Here's one for you. And it's not quite a theory of knowledge, but what would you say about music's medicinal and transformative qualities and maybe healing and change in the world? Because as you know, we're in the upside down world right now.
Yes, we are.
Right? So, from my personal beliefs, music it's vibrational, it's frequency, it's working on something beyond the material plane that we live in. So, that's right. Just want your thoughts as far as how can it be offered to heal and then maybe transform? That's
right. I mean, I think that's a lot of the music that I gravitated towards. I think in terms of the Black experience in general of dealing with, for hundreds of years of oppression, as I mentioned, that was what I was teaching, right? Sure. Music is a way of healing, but it's also a way of transforming not only yourself, but transforming society. So you have, of course, from the very early days, you have protest music, but you also, have that kind of music that is woven through a lot of the artists that we listen to. So I think the songs that hit me the most from someone like Nas were those songs that were pretty overtly political, or had, gems of knowledge that were in there, or some, even hearing Jay-Z in his 40s, talk about something that, I was like, wow, that's Jay-Z actually saying that now. So, going back to late 70s, where the Curtis Mayfield stuff, that's kind of social political commentary. Sure. I feel like there's a message in the music, and even when the message is not overt, just the act of celebrating Blackness is important. The idea that that we're able to even play a drum, was definitely revolutionary. Sure. Because Black folks, slaves, were not allowed to have instruments. So the act of making music and recording music is revolutionary. But I feel like when an artist chooses to actually use that platform to try to make a message or to try to promote social change, to me at least for me, it resonates even more deeply and on that kind of vibrational frequency.
Yeah, that's for certain. I would definitely have to agree with you. Sure, when the artists are very purposeful,
yes,
they have the intent,
yeah,
and then finding that creative way to not necessarily be didactic, because that can be overwhelming.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like a Public Enemy, it's coming straight at you. What did Chuck say? Like a rhino, right? It's something of that nature. Right? It's coming for you. Yeah. But yeah, when they find the way to really just get the message out there, I think that's that's impactful as well. The Bierwax, the host, the guests, the DJs, we're getting back into the swing of things for the most part. As far as I don't want to say post-COVID, but
yeah,
we're getting there. And then also too, this Queens location, if we can talk a little bit about that. But what I'm asking is the lineup, getting the people there, doing the thing, because I don't know the DJ when I was there, but he was rocking. I know I was standing outside. I was outside in the front, and so the booth is right there at the window. I just kept going,
Nice. Damn, I wonder who it was. I could probably look up and I'll figure it out so I can give them a shout, you know? So it was I don't want to drop the name of the party, but I remember who it was. I'll look him up. But yeah, in terms of like bringing talent and, you know, and folks, whether it's DJs or whatever events we have. In the beginning, it was just all me, of just like my connections within the hip hop community. And, you know, we've had incredible, like Kev Brown and Jay Sinai did an album release party and played the record. Kev Brown brought his MPC and was doing beats live. Like it was insane. So like that's a connection, right? We had these parties called 90s Now, which were a lot of cats that were down with the Nuyorican scene in the late 90s that would have ciphers right outside of Nuyorican's after one of the shows. They wanted to kind of bring that vibe back to life, and they approached me by having it at Bierwax. So we did, I think 3 or 4, all before the pandemic. And I was like pinching myself, like, wow, I can't believe like these folks, I used to just be in the audience watching this, and now these folks are at Bierwax at my bar doing, you know, making beats. You know, Yesh was, you know, brought his, I think he had an MPC that he brought, and Pays Infinite and Jay, you know, John Robinson was always there, and Alaska from Hangar 18 was one of the ones that was like pushing this. So, you know, those are the moments that I'm like, wow, like even if, you know, people probably have a lot of assumptions around, you know, bar owners or what a bar may make. We're not making much money, you know. We're not seriously. Like I'm making probably, me personally, the same amount of money I was making as a first year teacher. Wow. No joke. Yeah. So, but I do this for the experiences it creates.
Sure.
To have a staff that I employ, a great team. Shout out to Jessie, who's one of the folks that is actually bringing in a lot of the DJs, and she is now our events and operations manager. So she's the one that's kind of like emailing people back and forth, the people that are interested in DJing, and but it's really trying to create that vibe is what keeps me going and keeps me now trying to open up another location. You know, it's definitely, I mean, I don't have any hair, but I would have lost it if I did. So, because it's very stressful, but you know.
I imagine. I think I was just researching and reading some things about you as far as the renovations of this one, the Brooklyn location, and just like sleeping in the spot as it's being renovated.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's dedication. That's for sure. And it's the people over profits any day. So I'm with you on that one.
Get the mic on. Light it up.
You can find Bierwax Brooklyn at just Bierwax, BIERWAX on Instagram. We don't really mess with Twitter much, but we're in all the socials at Bierwax. But IG is the main way to find us. We have a website, bierwaxnyc.com, and we're opening Bierwax Queens. So it's the same way to spell beer, BIERWAX, and that's Queens, Bierwax Queens on IG. And also that's our website, bierwaxqueens.com as well.
Right. And there you have it, people. There you have it.
Yep.
Shout outs, final thoughts.
Shout outs to my wife Yahira, who's held it down to enable me to follow my passion. she's the one that's really the breadwinner, has the 9-to-5 and has the insurance plan. So she's made a lot of,
we need those.
Yeah, she's held me down to enable me to follow this path. She's actually helping out now a lot with Bierwax Brooklyn, doing a lot of staff support. So she's just such an important person in my life, obviously. And also the whole team, the whole Bierwax team, and also my partners for both Bierwax Brooklyn and now Bierwax Queens. If it wasn't for, as you know, I was a former educator, so I didn't come into this with a lot of my own capital. So it was through believing in this vision and this idea, and folks that actually were able to just put some money down to make this happen. So, I appreciate everyone and all the folks that dropped some money into the Indiegogo campaign that wrapped up right around the time that this is airing.
That's nice. That's what's up. Yeah, PRT for life, Chris, for sure. PRT for life. We are the Poor Righteous Teachers, right?
That's right.
That's
right.
What seem to do.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, P. He give me the nod over there.
All right. Hey, you guys were able to hear me okay, right?
Yeah, clearly. Beautiful.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Listen, I'm looking forward to meeting face to face.
Likewise, I'm surprised that we haven't met already, but I'm sure we will meet in the near future. Saeed, it's been a pleasure. I'm happy we can make this happen.
It was definitely a pleasure. And and it's in the plans. Universe.
And you have my info. If you can shoot me. Obviously, the next couple of weeks are going to be crazy. We're trying to open Bierwax Queens, but I would love to come and sit in on your class one of these days.
Say no more.
So yeah, seriously. So and thank you for doing the work that I wish. And some if I can clone myself, I'd still be doing that. Doing the good work too. So
I mean, somebody's got to do it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, brother.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good one. Definitely.
Right.
Peace.
Peace.